Hi there, I'm Chris Traynor, Guidance Team Manager at Newcastle University Career Service, and welcome to this short video on career planning in uncertain times. It's been said that we live in what could be called a VUCA world, i.e. one that is volatile, uncertain, complex and ambiguous. And recent global events and the resulting economic impact have only served to heighten this further. Now, many of those developments are out with our sphere of influence as individuals. And so there's really no great benefit to be had in investing huge amounts of emotional capital worrying about things that are out with your control. What you can do, however, is start to take action on the things that are within your control, and that will put you in a better position to take advantage of opportunities, perhaps unforeseen opportunities, as they subsequently arise. Let's start with a question that often gets asked. What are you going to do after university? If you haven't been asked that question yet, it's probably only a matter of time before you are. Whether it's family, friends, course mates, everybody wants to know what your plans are for your future. And it can feel at times like there's a bit of pressure to have an answer to that question. I'm going to be a solicitor or an accountant, or I've got a graduate scheme lined up at whatever company. The truth though is that most students probably don't have an answer to that question, which is completely understandable given the ever-increasing diversity of roles available in the job market, and the fact that you might still be trying to kind of understand yourself and what your interests, strengths and priorities are. So it's okay not to have a really crystal clear answer to that question, but it's not okay to ignore it altogether, I would say. That would be a mistake, and kicking career planning into the long grass will cause problems later on. It can take a bit of time to consider your options, and so the sooner you start taking action on this, the better. Now, we'll look at different ways of taking that action shortly, but first I think it's important to do a bit of myth busting on the graduate labour market. It can vary tremendously from sector to sector, employer to employer, and despite some of the fluctuations that exist, there are a few structural and positive features of the UK graduate labour market in particular that are worth being aware of. The first is that UK graduate employers are highly flexible on the degree disciplines they accept for their entry-level roles. The Institute of Student Employers, a group of many of the largest, most well-known employer names, report that 86% of their graduate positions are available to students from any degree discipline. In other words, you don't have to have studied marketing or business to get a job as a brand manager. And if you're a history student or a biology student, you can absolutely apply for jobs in banking or publishing or consumer goods. So think creatively and look widely at what's out there. Don't get caught with a narrow focus. Another interesting statistic is that on average, most graduates will spend less than 2 years in their first role after university. In fact, many studies suggest that most people today will have several major career changes during the course of their lifetimes. So whilst your first role after university is important and it is a big decision, it's not a lifelong decision. And so don't feel you have to be 100% certain that this is the job for you long term. That's an unrealistic pressure to put on yourself, and it's unnecessary as you'll likely change direction and move on as your career develops and you learn more about yourself and the workplace. Finally, it's worth noting the rise of the startup culture in recent years, perhaps in response to the unpredictability of the world of work. More and more students these days are taking the opportunity to design their own graduate career, either in running their own small business or as operating as a freelancer or independent professional of some kind. It's not uncommon for people to combine their own work with some other form of employment in what's known as a portfolio career, and this could be something worth considering also. So with all this in mind, what can you do to start making progress on your career planning? Well, one useful approach is a 4-step process known as the DOTS model. Many students know they should be starting to think about career planning but just don't know where to begin, and the DOTS model is really useful here. Rather than just searching for graduate jobs in Google and getting 10 billion hits, the DOTS model suggests starting to think about yourself initially. Spend some time self-reflecting on what your interests, priorities and strengths are. Forget about job titles for a moment and just ask yourself what you'd like to be doing on a day-to-day basis, what kind of environment you'd like to be in. Write these things down for reference and then start to look at the jobs market in more detail to increase your occupational awareness. Research this as if it were a university project. Look at different sectors, employers, job roles. What do they involve, and how does this stack up against your wish list? Once you've gone through these 2 stages, it can be easier to start making some decisions about areas you'd like to pursue further. And then the final stage becomes honing your application skills so that you're ready to stand out from the crowd in the selection process. At every one of these stages, the Career Service can support you. Just get in touch to discuss with one of the team further. Now, the DOTS model is a logical and intuitive model, but it's not the only possible approach. I'll hand over to my colleague Jen Simpson to explain further.
Planned happenstance was a theory developed in the 1990s, so relatively recently, and is based on chaos theory and reflects the idea of making career choices in a chaotic and changing world. It embraces the notion of change, focuses more on the external change factors, i.e. economic, political, technological, etc., rather than the self, and emphasises career planning within a framework of limited control and a focus on behaviours to help us navigate those opportunities. So these behaviours include curiosity, so the ability to explore opportunities, risk-taking, to take action in the face of uncertain outcomes, flexibility to respond to different circumstances and events, persistence to help us deal with obstacles, and of course optimism to help us maximise the benefit of chance events that do come our way. With both planned happenstance and the DOTS model, there will always be a degree of ambiguity, so it's really important to bear in mind your own well-being during this period to make sure you balance your time and energy as much as you can. If you do feel as though things are becoming overwhelming, then do reach out to us in the Career Service for further support. And now we're going to look at some practical steps to help you get started. The first of which would be to make a start, and that can involve something as simple as making a list that includes the things that you're interested in, the things that you know you enjoy and that you're good at. By really figuring out what your priorities are will help you to move forwards. And then secondly, the next thing you're going to do is start to research your options. Now, as we've already talked about, there's no right or wrong way to do this, but one good place to start would be to look at what other graduates from your programme have done in the past. To help you do this, you can look at graduate outcomes and websites including prospects.ac.uk, where you can find information on researching organisations, job roles, and they also offer career profiles as well. Thirdly, we would always recommend communicating. Talk to people in your circle and as well as outside your circle, which can seem daunting, we know, but we know that a lot of successful career stories often start off with a referral or with an open-minded conversation. And then once you've done all this, we would say start and have a look and see what's out there in terms of jobs and opportunities. A great place to start is mycareer.ac.uk. There are a range of various employment opportunities on there. Everything from short-term projects, internships to full-time hiring and graduate programmes appear on My Career. Be curious as well. Don't set yourself too much of a narrow search. Be open to what a new opportunity might look like. Let's remember the flexible approach part of the planned happenstance model. You never know where your next big opportunity may come from. And then if you're struggling with any of this, or you find yourself stagnating, or you still just don't quite know where to start, reach out to us for an appointment. We'll be more than happy to talk you through this in a little bit more detail. Taking that all on board, do remember that Rome wasn't built in a day, and career planning is going to be a lifelong commitment that you make. For those of you out there who are familiar with Steve Jobs of Apple, I think he summed it up in probably the best way possible when he said in a keynote speech, again, you can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backwards. So you have to trust that the dots will somehow connect in your future. You have to trust in something, your gut, destiny, life, karma, whatever. This approach has never let me down, and it has made all the difference in my life. So to wrap up, further one-to-one guidance from a professional careers consultant is available and can be booked via mycareer.ac.uk. You can also explore a range of occupations, and we've included a link directly to our website, which is very helpful and breaks down a range of different occupations by industry sector. And finally, there's also a link on there which should take you to an article which talks a little bit more about making career choices and also offers a few extra hints and tips on how to go about this. That draws this session to an end. I really hope that you found it useful. But if there's anything more that we can do log on to My Career and arrange to come and speak to one of us. Hope to speak to you all soon. Bye now.